right, David, thanks for doing this. Welcome everyone. We're in Revelstoke Mountain Collab up on the second floor right across the street from City Hall here. Put a little pitch in for us. We got some new art on the walls, which I'm sure you'll appreciate. David and I were talking just before this about what we're going to talk about, and we sort of said, let's not make it about a laundry list of stuff that's going on. So usually I notice on YouTube about 100 people typically watch these things. A rule of thumb that I always learned from being in the journalism business like you is that somewhere around 15% of people are really truly involved in politics, like they have a core involvement. Everyone else, some extent or another, maybe around election time. And I guess one of the things that I'd like to talk about, maybe it's a bit of political philosophy, and we're losing, I can hear the users clicking off from YouTube right now. I'm going to talk about political philosophy. I guess it's been a real interesting experience for me. We're almost at the halfway mark of this council, sort of another 6 months and we'll be there, is when I'm talking to those, like really core people who are interested in making the community a better place. My experience, like sitting in the council table, has been really interesting for me. I really enjoy new experiences. You learn how to work as a team, and you experience those frustrations of trying to get something done, and it's a lot slower than you'd want it to be, and it's a lot more complicated than you want it to be. Or when you get into the real sort of legal side of things, sometimes it looks like a real clear solution, but it doesn't work for various reasons. But I guess maybe one of the reasons that sort of when I was thinking just a few minutes ago about what to talk about is when you take a look at the history of Revelstoke, since 1899 when it was incorporated, it's always had a really active civic scene. People are really engaged and they're really involved in trying to make the community a better place. And I think it's still that way. It's been that way since I've been here, but it isn't always exactly the same. Sometimes there's more disaffection or less disaffection. There's always those same people working behind the scenes to make it a better place, and I think that's who I'm talking to. That's really the people who come and pay a lot of attention to civic affairs. And just to draw comparisons to what's happening south of the border, where we have a pretty scary individual commanding attention, who's able to use Twitter, social media very effectively, and has made himself an undeniable presence, and gets scarier by the day seeing what's going on. You sort of sit when you're as a local politician sitting there going like, wow, could that happen here, or are we heading in that direction? We seem to have taken as a lot of analysts will say, a different direction nationally speaking, but locally speaking, I sit here and wonder, are we always going to enjoy the same involvement, the same civic mindedness? And when I sit back, and sometimes we have stressful decisions or stressful issues, we're dealing with the council, we're dealing with controversies, you can kind of get wrapped up in it a little bit and get a bit, maybe take it personally or take it emotionally, or something like that. But I guess what I'm really feeling, having spent the first year and a half, more than a year and a half on council, is that I'm starting to feel more and more comfortable. And again, you see the people in the community who really step up, not just in politics, it's all across things, but civic involvement across the spectrum. And I just would ask people to keep that in mind as we're at about 4 minutes now, to keep that in mind and put things in perspective. I had a great weekend up on the mountains this weekend, enjoying the snowboarding, all the fresh snow, good times with friends, and a lot of good things going on. I see a lot of really positive developments, in my opinion. We had a new distillery going in, application down for the old brewery site, with the new hotel applications. We have a lot of other positive economic changes happening, which I think people really wanted to see. And
not the price of gas, though.
No, the price of gas is going in another direction. I don't know. I remember writing a really big, interesting story about that a few years ago, and it's a tough nut to struggle with. However, one of the conclusions is more competition generally improves the situation, and we do have another gas station that's under construction here. But I guess, speaking directly to those 100 people, people like in Revelstoke and I guess in other towns like to put a lot of pressure on council. You know, council did a good job on that one. Council blew it on this one here, but it's a small portion of what makes this community great. And I guess what I would like to do is, you know, appeal to everyone's, you know, civic mindedness and sense of, you know, making the community a better place, and then just and more importantly, just look around and say, you know, we have a lot of challenges and struggles, but life's pretty good here, and how can I contribute to making it better? I don't know, I'm kind of rambling, like I said, I lose you off at the start.
I've got a couple of questions.
Yeah,
because I was actually thinking about this a few days ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you agreed to do this one, I was thinking, well, what are we going to talk about? That you brought this up is great.
Mm-hmm.
What I'd like to know
mm-hmm.
is, has your involvement in the political process met your expectations?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you and I, by virtue of our professions,
mm-hmm.
come in closer than usual contact with politics and politicians.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have probably between us far more experience than anybody on the board together, except maybe Mark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mark's got a lot of years in there.
Yeah.
I guess one of the limitations you face at the civic level is you are a creature of provincial government, more or less. The community charter defines what local governments can and can't do, and you don't really have the power to change that. I mean, if you go to the Union of British Columbia Municipalities annual convention, a large part of the business there is asking other levels of government for things, or asking other level of government to change the rules to benefit you. And oftentimes you can feel, I think, a little bit straitjacketed by the rules. So that's, you know, a feeling. I know that was always there, but sometimes, like when you run into a frustration, you say, how come we're not getting this done faster, or how come this isn't moving forward more quickly? Oftentimes it's because there's, you know, you don't control the rules of the game, and you have to play by the rules, and sometimes that can be limiting. But on the whole, you know, when you work in journalism, and I guess in politics, but the same way in a small town, you're never closer to the subject. You're never going to be closer to the people and the issues there. If you know, in a bigger place, you can sort of you know, maybe go report for yourself, go report on a story, and then never see those people again. Here, you're always going to see those people again every day. So I think, you know, from the political side of things, it makes things really, you know, you take to heart that it's really important to people that what you do, and you have to really try your best. The other thing, I guess, the simple part of that is, you know, you're one person of 7 people on a council, and then your council is only a part of how the whole city operates and everything operates. So you don't have that ability to snap your fingers and have something happen tomorrow, as you often like to feel. And I think everyone feels that. And I guess just another thing that you know, I've started to believe in more and more, and I often talk to council about this in conversations, is the city of Revelstoke, the corporation of the city of Revelstoke, through government's guidance by council, has the ability to achieve a lot of things, but it depends on your approach to what it is. And one of the things that I'm trying to consistently advocate for is that when we have a machine that works properly, it does a really good job. But if we don't, so I'm going off. If we don't maintain that, oh, someone's making noise back there. If you take a viewpoint that it's not a valuable machine, and you neglect it, it doesn't work as well. And I think for myself, you know, when we do things like policy reviews and bylaw reviews and you know, planning sessions, we have an OCP as well as a zoning bylaw that needs to be done. If those pieces aren't in place, then it causes a lot of problems, in my opinion, and it means we're not working as efficiently as we can. So for me, like, you know, in the next year or so, we have these projects budgeted, and I'd really like to see them get done. We're doing a lot of good work on things like asset management, which I think is really going to pay off. one of those things that, you know, people don't read about as much. They sort of hear asset management and they go, oh, that doesn't sound that exciting, but it's really fundamental stuff. You know, if, you know, you can save yourself a lot of money if you have really good planning in place, and these are the kinds of things that, for the people watching, I really encourage you to stay involved. You know, to stay involved with the community and work towards how we're going to make this a better place, and pay attention to what David's writing over at the Current, or what Alex is writing over at the paper, or Emily covers the city beat for us across the hallway there, and you know, helps steer the conversation, in my opinion, away from, you know, politics of angriness and negativity, and focus on positiveness. Well, solutions, not being positive, you know, but solutions.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I've always been pretty solution-oriented myself. I find it frustrating when a lot of people fail to strive for that in the community. And you see, and you've run into this, I've run into this, there is a certain amount of frustration out there in the community, and people take it out on city council, and take it out on our staff. And you've heard the complaints, I'm sure you still do. You know, that you guys are basically a rubber stamp for the people who actually do run the city. You know, for our civil servants, for whom I have a great deal of respect. We have pretty good civil servants. But you know, this is this something that you could address now? What do you think about the relationship between the city and the city council?
I think we have a good relationship. You know, I think it's something for new councillors, for people who haven't been around a lot of the time. There's a learning curve. It takes 6 months to sort of start figuring out how it works. But you know, again, when I'm talking about you know, creating an efficient machine, I mean, it's not the best metaphor to use there. It's about, you know, working as smart and best we can to. And the really simple way to boil it down is to, for example, grant funding. You know, we get all kinds of grant funding. Big Eddy Waterworks project is an example of, you know, $3.8 million. That wouldn't be achievable if we weren't working together. And this started with the past council and staff. You know, for almost a year they were working on that one, and continues through. That's an example of, you know, the basic work, waterworks. Getting grant funding and working well as a team to achieve those things. The rubber stamp thing I disagree with. I was in an administration meeting this morning, and I raised objections to 3 different things, or had, you know, revisions made to things, and sent one back to the drawing board. In my opinion, maybe people don't come out to committee meetings, almost never, so they don't see that discussion happening there. But that's going to be revised. Those issues, and sent back eventually to the committee and eventually to council. And that's an example of, you know, us wanting to get it right, and maybe it's just not seeing it. You know, before a few years ago, the city used to do committee of the whole. Council used to do committee of the whole. So you basically talk about everything one week and then do it again next week in the official meeting, and you really see in the committee of the whole meeting the discussions that are happening. If you watch the council meeting and everyone goes, yep, it's because they've already talked about it at the committee meeting, made discussions, made changes, and have, you know, something that's workable that people are going to agree on. So, but I guess to summarize, because it's probably been over 10 minutes now, we're getting to right. I just really think, you know, for the core people watching, you know, you and I know it's a good town, and there's a lot of good things happening, and we have, you know, a lot of things on the go. Staff are working really hard across there. I mean, you know, especially the development everyone's working hard, but it's the development services department have so much on their plate right now for the size of the city that we do have. It's a few people. That you know, I'm always impressed with the work that they're doing. So
good.
Anyways, that's probably about my 12 minutes of fame. Yeah, I guess the feeling is you sort of look south and shake your head and say, how in 2016 does the most powerful democracy in the world appear to be going so off the rails? And then you look into yourself and say, could that happen here? And you know, you see some parallels. You know, I see sometimes post-fact arguments, like people don't start talking about stuff and they say, well, this is the, you know, this happened and that happened, when it's not the case, and those things are concerning to me. Losing perspective on the fact that, you know, with exceptions, life's pretty good, and what has been successful for this community for the past 100 years is people getting together, identifying the problems, then coming up with solutions and working towards them. And you know, I guess to sum up, you know, at this point, almost halfway into council, I feel really positive about the job. It's a lot of work, but I am really enjoying it.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Aaron, thank you very much.
David, thank you.